Hey guys, welcome to True Crime with Tubby. My name is Tubby Molloy, and on this week's episode, we are going to be discussing the Krugersdorp samurai killer case, which happened at Nick Diederichs Technical High School in Krugersdorp, South Africa. Now, this case is going to be centered around the events that took place on the 17th of August 2008, involving a young man by the name of Morne Harmse. Now, Morne Harmse was 18 years old at the time, and he was a grade 12 pupil at Nick Diederichs Technical High School. Now, at the time, Morne was said to be a very short, thin young man who had a baby face and a small stature. Morne claimed that this caused him to be the victim of quite a lot of teasing and bullying while he was in school. Now, Morne was said to have been raised by a very strict father, who Morne later claimed had beat him while he was growing up, while his mother had struggled with a whole lot of mental health issues and she had attempted suicide multiple times. Now, 3 days before this incident took place, Morne had been to a career guidance session where his answers had frightened his teachers. He had stated that he was not prepared for his upcoming final exams, that he was not very optimistic about his future. He also said that his parents really didn't have that much faith in him anyway. Now, later that day, Morne is said to have planned the attack that took place 3 days later, and he had told his friends exactly what he intended. So before school broke out on that Friday afternoon, he sat with 5 of his friends and he asked them how they would penetrate a Columbine-type massacre on the school grounds. Some of the boys joked that they would use guns. But then Morne explained the following in great detail. He explained how he would wear a mask that he had made in honor of a metal band called Slipknots. He also stated that he would then lay into the school children with one of his many Japanese swords that he had in his collection. Now, the other boys stated that this was supposed to have just been a joke, and that's what they told investigators. Now, the following Monday, at around 7 a.m., Morne arrived in his school uniform wearing a brown mask. As he had previously stated on the previous Friday afternoon, he wore a mask that was inspired by Slipknot's lead singer or lead vocalist Corey Taylor, and he called this the maggot mask. Now, at around 7:20 a.m., during assembly for a congregation, Morne took out a 60-centimeter samurai sword and he slashed a 16-year-old pupil by the name of Jacques Pretorius. He then proceeded to walk down the passage and he further slashed a 17-year-old Stefan Bauer on the head. He was immediately confronted by 2 school groundskeepers, one by the name of Joseph Godiseng and Simon Manamela, who he slashed and injured. Now, Jacques Pretorius, the pupil who was slashed on the neck, was unfortunately killed on the scene. Stefan sustained serious injuries, while Joseph Godiseng as well as Simon Manamela were critically injured. The 3 were rushed to the hospital, while unfortunately Jacques Pretorius died on the scene. On the 20th of August 2008, Morne was charged with 1 count of murder and 3 counts of attempted murder at the Krugersdorp Magistrates Court. He was later sent to the Sterkfontein Psychiatric Hospital for a mental health evaluation, and on the 25th of October, after 2 consecutive months of mental health evaluation, as well as 2 postponements of his court case, Morne was ruled to be mentally fit by Magistrate Norkia. On the 14th of April 2009, Morne pleaded guilty to all 4 charges, and on the 10th of October he was sentenced to 20 years imprisonment. In the aftermath of the attacks, blame was placed on Satanism, as Morne had taken an interest in this at some stage. Blame was also placed on the heavy metal act Slipknot, which was blamed for the attacks as Morne had obtained masks that resembled those of the band members and was reportedly listening to the band months before this incident. Slipknot's frontman, Corey Taylor, later issued a response to Morne's actions, where he did state that he was quite disturbed by the fact that this took place and that people were hurt and that someone actually died during the course of this incident. He did, however, state that that is where his responsibility ends, as his message and the message of his band is very positive. He stated that none of his music actually encourages anyone to go out and physically harm anyone or kill anybody. And he also emphasized that he'd like to encourage their fans to continue expressing themselves and to stick together and help each other. Another thing that also took place after this incident was that Morne's parents actually issued an apology to the Pretorius family for what their son had done. Now, this story is honestly quite tragic. It's tragic for many reasons, one of which is that so many young lives were impacted by this. I mean, Morne himself was extremely young when this took place. You know, he was 18 of legal age and all of that, but I mean, he was still a young man with his entire life ahead of him, and this incident obviously stood in the way of that, and it changed the course of his entire life. Another very, very tragic thing that happened on that day is that a young man, a 16-year-old man, lost his life on that day. And I mean, you can only imagine just how tragic that could have been for his family and for those that knew and loved him. On the 3rd of March 2002, Morne Harmse was released on parole. Now, according to his initial sentence, Morne was supposed to be in prison up until the 9th of March 2029. However, according to Correctional Services Department spokesperson Singabakho Nxumalo, Harmse completed his legislated minimum detention period on the 9th of June 2019 and was considered for parole placement. He's said to have appeared before the Zonderwater Management Area Correctional Supervisor and Parole Board about 8 times before he was actually granted parole. Now, on an interview that took place on Newsroom Africa, Leonie Pretorius, Jacques' aunt, stated that they had attended a parole hearing in 2019 for Morne's release. And during this parole hearing, she states that Morne showed no remorse. He did not apologize, and when he was asked, he actually said that he had nothing to say. However, the family was shocked in 2022 when they actually received an email to notify them that Morne had indeed been released on parole. Leonie Pretorius further went on to speak about Jacques Pretorius, where she actually spoke about how he was a happy-go-lucky, busy boy who had a lot of potential. He had his entire life ahead of him. That brings us to the end of today's episode. Thank you so much for sticking with me to the end of the video. Please show your support for my channel by giving this video a thumbs up, commenting down below, and most importantly, please do not forget to subscribe to my channel. See you next time.